What's up, y'all? This East Heaven. Peace. Assalamu alaikum. Blessings. Blessings be unto you. Blessings be unto the all. So I just made that video about how healing can be uncomfortable because you're moving your energy through these blockages or these knots, basically. So when you're getting a massage, you got a knot and somebody's got to push through the knot. It might be a little uncomfortable. You dig? You're releasing some tension, but it's all for the good. And it can be uncomfortable. Healing can be uncomfortable. Life can be uncomfortable sometimes, but it's all for the good. It can all be for the good. But I did want to get into crystals, crystal healing. I am super into crystals. I love crystals, man. It's something that I'm really, really drawn to. And I wouldn't say that I'm the most well-versed on the subject, although, I've been into it for years now. I got my jewelry, you dig? I got my lapis, you feel me? I got my iolite, my rose quartz, you dig? Emerald, you feel me? And it's cheap too, man. A lot of these are really inexpensive if you want to get into crystal healing for yourself and using these for healing purposes or whatever your purposes are. You can use them for many different things. But yeah, we're crystalline beings, man. We're crystalline beings because we're made of water, right? We're made of like 70% water. And what does water do? When you have snow, and it'll take it'll take the form. You look at like a snowflake and it takes like that form. That's a crystal. It's a crystalline form. So that's one thing that water does. Water takes on the form and the shape of the vibration that it comes into contact with. It's kind of like Bruce Lee said, when water comes into the cup, it becomes the cup. You feel me? So that's one thing that water signs are kind of known for is their empathic type of nature or empathic type of energy, is that they can take on the feelings and emotions of other people and places, circumstances and situations. They could take on other experiences outside of themselves and it can become them easily. They can easily step into somebody else's shoes because that's the nature of water. That's one thing water signs are known for. However, we're all made of water, and we can all, have this. We can all have this ability, basically, of empathy, of absorbing, taking on, and embodying the vibrations or the energies of whatever it is we focus on, or whatever it is around us. And so, that's one thing that crystals are very important for. They can help us to protect our energy from, absorbing, embodying toxicity and other energies that we just don't want or that aren't, best for our life path. And we got to know our life path, basically. However, and one way you could, when you're dealing with astrology, for one, you could use there are different systems of divination and self-study. It's like I think the word would be parapsychological. It'd be like a parapsychological type of process. Astrology, numerology, different things like that, dealing with the numbers relating to yourself and your birth and where you were born and having to do with your talents. When you're looking at astrology, you have a whole chart. You have you got your sun, where the sun was when you were born, the moon, and in other places. There are important aspects for determining basically where you want to be going and where you're coming from. And so myself, I have kind of experiences, being somewhat empathic and I don't want to attribute it to this. You don't want to take astrology or numerology and say, oh, I'm like this because of this number or, this planet or whatever. That is one way of looking at it, but you can look at it in different ways. Like if you look at, there are certain ways of psychological evaluation. If you're looking at, things like Jung and, you know, different psychological evaluation type of processes and modalities. You're looking at but when you're looking at astrology though, for one, that's one way that it's kind of like, it's like a psychological evaluation type thing. You look at yourself, you look at your experiences, and you can kind of like glean some understanding. And this is what the ancients did. They looked at their charts, they would understand more about themselves and those around them, and, you know, they would use that to make certain types of decisions, of course within reason. You don't want to take astrology or numerology or any type of system and just take the information and accept it if it doesn't resonate with you, your soul, and what you know is right. And so that's another thing, is that there are different systems of astrology. You have the sidereal, you have the tropical, and then there, you know, inside of that there are different systems. There's like the whole house system, the Placidus, different things like that. However, when you are looking at astrology, there are certain points and areas that you want to look at that'll sort of point you towards where you want to go. So you have the north node of the moon, you have the south node of the moon, basically. And when you're looking at north versus south node of the moon, you kind of look at the south node. South node tells you where you're coming from, and it also tells you about where you have an abundance, an overabundance, maybe overabundance to where it's unbalanced. You have like an unbalanced type of energy in some situations, in many situations. The south node, it's kind of like, it's almost like the moon. They say, like, you know, the moon is like the moon, or the matter, or the mother, the flesh. It's representing like the flesh, and, you know, the tendency of the flesh. So the body has recorded through the DNA. The body has recorded the tendencies of the ancestors, positive and negative. So you tend to you have like, it's kind of hard for me to give an example, but you have like a certain type of moon sign, and, you know, that's just the aspect of what you tend to do, what you tend to think, what you kind of tend towards just doing sort of naturally. Like, it's almost like a habitual type thing. Like, your habits get stored in your body. So over time, you know, when you're dealing with the ancestors, that gets stored, you know, habitual habits get stored in the DNA as programs. And then when your parents and grandparents and so on beget you, that's passed on in the DNA, certain habits and programs, basically, that we have to overcome. And that's, you know, how we can break generational trauma and things of that nature. However, when we're dealing with the north and the south node, you're talking about the south node, which is, I think the south node is very closely connected to the moon sign. The south node is having to do with karma. It's having to do where you came from. Not only like strengths, but weaknesses, as far as where we become too comfortable and where we kind of have to travel out of our comfort zone is the north node. The north node is telling us, yo, that's where you gotta, that's where you get out of your comfort zone. That's where you begin to grow. That's where you step out the box. When you step into the, I don't even want to call it the unknown, because that's probably not for every situation. But for the south node, that's definitely, it's more like a karma type thing. North node is the dharma. That's the north node is what will free you from it'll free you from the bondage of your past, basically. And so when you're looking at the south node and north node, these things can tell you things about your past. It could tell you about where you were, and it could tell you about where you're going. So mine, I have sort of an experience with a sort of having an empathic type of disposition, where like I'm a very sensitive type person, to be honest. Pisces south node. Pisces is one of the most sensitive of zodiac signs. It's a water sign, a sign that can take on emotions, energies, and situations, circumstances of other people. as if it were their own. So I've experienced vicariously quite a few things that I haven't, experienced firsthand, but I felt it almost, I wouldn't even say as if I was there, but almost as if I was there. It's an empathetic type thing. Like, you can really put yourself into somebody's shoes, and some people can do it more than others. However, I have experience with that. When you have a Pisces south node, your north node is Virgo, which is an earth sign. It's very clear and level-headed. It's very concrete and realistic. It's having to do with building a material type of success almost. It's having to do with being very solid and not as moved like a water sign. That's the thing. You have the earth versus water polarity. Earth very stable, solid, very I want to say almost sure of itself. And then the water signs are very flowy, empathetic, they can take on and can even become things other than themselves in some situations. However, I said that to say, I just have experience with the empathetic type thing. So when you're looking at different types of when you're trying to figure out basically your talents and where you should be heading in life, basically in astrology, you want to look at your midheaven, north node, and your ascendant. Your ascendant is sort of the path that you're traveling through life. It's also the way that other people see you, the type of energy that other people see you as. The south node would be, or not the south node, you would use the north node. The north node would be sort of like where you have to get out of your comfort zone and what will bring you basically the most success in this life. It might be uncomfortable, but it will bring you the greatest success and overall long-term satisfaction. The midheaven is sort of like your talents. It's the 10th house, which is Capricorn, which is the sign of fame, career, and material success and ambitions. So when you're looking at the 10th house or the midheaven, that's going to tell you where your talents are, where you can make the most money, where you reach your fame, if you're meant to be famous at all. Because some people have a midheaven and it's placed in a way where you're not supposed to necessarily be famous. You might not, or it might be to where you're not supposed to be famous in this lifetime. You become famous in the next lifetime. You're supposed to be essentially lonely. But some people are okay with that. Some people aren't. And, everybody has their own lot in life. But for you empaths out there, I'm speaking straight to y'all, my empathic brothers and sisters. One of my favorite crystals for empaths, myself being an empath, and what I felt the effect of this crystal personally on a personal level. Very protective type of crystal, obsidian. I was listening to somebody talk about obsidian earlier, and they were saying obsidian is and people have used obsidian to scry. They've used obsidian mirrors to, you look into the obsidian mirror, you see different things. You can remote view. You can see into your own soul. There's different things. You can see visions in an obsidian mirror. Obsidian can be used for many different things, but it's a very protective type of stone. And what this person was talking about was that obsidian will deflect the energy back to people who try to take advantage of you. And empathic people, a lot of the time, we were taken advantage of because we're so open to other people that we allow other people to direct us in a lot of situations. So that's one thing about obsidian, is that obsidian will kind of like, it'll return that back to them almost. It's almost like Tai Chi. It'll take their energy and turn it right back to them, whether it's good or bad. And they might sense it. But for us ourselves, it allows us to be a little bit more stable, a little bit more centered, and a little bit more sure of ourselves, basically. A little bit more less likely to react to what's outside of us and to remain centered. So obsidian is one of my favorite stones for that. A lot of people also say black tourmaline. I have black tourmaline as well, and I've used it. However, I wouldn't say I've had the same experience with black tourmaline to where I was like, oh yeah, this works. Like, I'm noticing this. The first time I put an obsidian spear on, that first day I was like, oh yeah, like I noticed it. So obsidian is one of my favorite protective type of crystals, especially for empaths and people who want to be left alone, people who want to have more control over themselves, basically. And that was the basic subject that I wanted to bring up. I said all that to say, I recommend obsidian to you empaths. Try out black tourmaline. Black tourmaline is also very well known for transmuting negative energy and bringing that down to earth and grounding it, and basically grounding it out, sending it into the earth to be transmuted, basically. So black stones are really great for protection, for transmutation and activity. And if y'all deal with any of these black stones, or if you have any stones that are good for protection, I would like to know. Leave a comment or something, hit me up. Let me see, I covered all my grounds. Okay. Well, this is East Heaven. Great to speak to you. Peace be unto you and the all. Assalamu alaikum.